So you have this trainee, right? They're raising their hand, they're answering questions in class, but you find out later on that when they're asked, did you teach something? They're like, no, they didn't teach that, even though you know you did. You thought they were engaged in the training because they were raising their hand and answering questions every once in a while. You thought they're engaged, but they may not have been. My name is Jay Bryan, Learner Engagement Specialist and corporate trainer. And we're going to be talking about what I call fake engagement, how to tell if your learners are actually engaged or not. So my wife had a conversation with me. This was probably about 10 years ago. I just got into the workforce and I was facilitating some workshops and groups and things like that. But where I was working at, I went through some just personal communication challenges with people, just still trying to feel myself out, figure myself out and things, and figure out how to navigate these things. And I ended up having a conversation with my wife, and she said, "You know what? You're so accommodating." She was talking about me. She said, "You're so accommodating and accepting of people that you're borderline gullible at times. Like you're borderline gullible. You're come on now. Some people are not, you know, there it's not necessarily what it seems all the time. It's funny because I look back and I definitely knew she was right. She was right. So just because someone may act like they're engaged doesn't necessarily mean that they're engaged. Don't just accept it right away. Okay. Don't just accept it. There's some things we want to remember when it comes to engagement and how to avoid that fake engagement, if you will. People looking engaged, they might seem engaged, but they're not really getting the material. They're not really remembering or retaining it. So, how can we battle this or watch out for this fake engagement, if you will, and not be gullible like I was back then? So, there are three things you want to remember to battle fake engagement. Number one, you will never 100% know if someone is engaged or not, at least not all trainees. You'll never know if all of them are engaged. Why? Because we're not all knowing. We're just not all knowing. So we're not we can't know everything at one time. We can't solve every problem at one time. So you can never know 100% if someone is engaged. So do not beat yourself up if someone comes off as engaged, but later on you find out they didn't learn anything. Okay? That's number one. Number two, the real results are not in the engagement in the classroom. They're actually, the real is in the results. The real, the truth is in their results. How do they perform when they get out and start doing the job? AKA, how do they make the company more money? How do they get the company that ROI and you that ROI as well? So you can find out during their training if they are actually engaged and actually learning the material. If it's not fake engagement, you can find out by doing things like knowledge checks, quizzes, activities, polls, anything like that allows you to check and see, oh, this person is, I can see they're getting this. So remember, the real is in the results. It's in how they perform when they finish with your training. Then the third thing we want to think about is that engagement is not a constant. It's never been a constant. No one is engaged 100% of the time. Nobody. So don't feel bad if somebody looks engaged or they're giving you the fake engagement. you know, don't feel bad if somebody actually is engaged in class and they're not engaged 20 minutes later. No learner is engaged 100% of the time. Okay, that's something to remember right now. So they may not be fake engaged. They may actually, or they may not be fake engagement. They may actually just not be engaged because no one stays turned on 10 as far as engagement all the time. So those are three things we want to remember. Number one, you can never 100% know if everyone is engaged at all times. Number two, the real is in the results. And then number three, engagement is not constant. So, you know, there was a corporate trainer I knew, one of the most energetic guys I know. His classes were borderline like shows. Like they were literally, he had this guy, he used puppets in class. He did a lot, very energetic. And that was just him. That was his style. And I expected when I came into his class for everybody to always be engaged and just paying attention. But you know what I found? There were still some learners that were not engaged in the material. There were still some learners that were not paying attention. There were still some learners that ended up not being able to perform to par. Most energetic and one of the most engaging trainers I'd ever seen still had people that weren't as engaged. It's okay. Just know that fake engagement is a thing, and know that there are things we have to watch out for and pay attention to. And if we want to see the real is in the results at the end of the day. If your learning and development team needs help of any kind with learner engagement, corporate trainers, maybe you're a corporate trainer and you just want help with your learners. I post free content on this channel. There'll be a video, at least of one video every week, talking about learner engagement tips, activities, tricks. If you need help, if you need me to come and work with your team, you're a learning and development professional, you want me to come work with your team, I'm there. Reach out to me at info@jbrianspeaks.com. Again, that's info@jbrianspeaks.com. Or you can fill out the form on www.jaybrianspeaks.com. Again, that's www.jbrianspeaks.com. And I'm there, y'all. I'm there. With that, again, I'm Jay Brian, learner engagement specialist and corporate trainer, and I will see you all on the next video. Peace.